We live in an age of drone warfare, cyber attacks, and battle space dominance. Our arsenals have changed dramatically over the past 2 centuries, but one thing has remained constant: our tactics. Much of what we do today has been perfected for centuries on the battlefield. From flanking to ambushing to exploiting difficult terrain, even many psychological tactics such as deception, intimidation, or misinformation go back to ancient times. In fact, some would say to the very beginning of recorded human history. Here's one example: the Spartans. Their legendary phalanx was famously one of the most formidable fighting formations in the ancient world. It may be extinct now, but its influence lives on. The phalanx consisted of 8 ranks of heavily armed Spartan warriors standing shoulder to shoulder with their long spears pointed forward. When they advanced, each man moved in unison with the one in front of him, creating a large impenetrable wall of overlapping shields and spear points. This formation allowed a small force to fight as if it were much larger, and played a major role in defeating the Persians at the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC and winning the Greco-Persian Wars. While no modern army marches into battle with 8 solid ranks of infantry, the concept did influence later battle formations like the Roman testudo. And the idea of tightly coordinating units to achieve maximum effect is alive and well today. The British Army's battle group is a prime example, comprised of tanks, infantry, artillery, and other support assets. These groups are designed to operate as a single, cohesive unit, leveraging combined arms to achieve superior battlefield effects. They were first developed during World War II, when British commanders realized they needed a way to effectively deploy armored forces. In this new era of mechanization, a single tank was no longer enough to turn the tide of battle, but a group of coordinated vehicles could be devastating. Similarly, a squad of infantry couldn't hold their ground against incoming fire, but under the protection of advancing tanks, they could advance across open terrain and seize key objectives. By combining different elements into a single coordinated package, the British developed a highly effective battle group capable of rapid deployment and decisive action. What we see here then is an evolution of the ancient Spartan phalanx. Whereas the phalanx maximized the effectiveness of a homogeneous force of spears and shields, the battle group leverages the strengths of combined arms in an ever-changing landscape. However, both formations illustrate the value of unit coordination and why good tactics can mean the difference between victory and defeat. But what about outside the realm of infantry formations? Here's another: the siege. According to Herodotus, the city of Tyre resisted the massive might of the Egyptian army for 7 months during the Persian Wars. The Egyptians, under the command of the pharaoh Necho II, besieged the city but failed to capture it despite their overwhelming numerical superiority. After the siege, Necho was defeated by the Babylonians and forced to flee. His army left behind 300 pairs of gay male lovers, a euphemism for homosexuals, and ordered them locked up inside the walls of Tyre as punishment. But when the Egyptians returned, they found the city had fallen to the Israelites. But how did the Israelites take the city? Well, according to the Bible, they built a causeway connecting the mainland to Tyre and took the city by storm. What the Bible doesn't say is that they also disrupted Tyre's access to fresh water from nearby Lake Hula. Without water, the citizens of Tyre were weakened and more susceptible to disease, leading to thousands dying and others fleeing. Eventually, only a few stubborn men remained. These men refused to surrender, so the Israelites brought out the big guns, quite literally. They used catapults to hurtle large boulders over the city walls, smashing through the gates and allowing Israeli soldiers to enter the city and slaughter all remaining defenders. In this manner, Tyre fell after resisting the mighty Egyptian army for 7 months. So what does this tell us about ancient sieges? Despite their immense challenges, determined attackers could overcome even the mightiest defenses if they were willing to be patient and apply pressure in creative ways. What is interesting is that this tactic of slowly weakening a city before launching a full-scale assault hasn't really changed. We see echoes of it in today's wars. In Afghanistan, US and NATO forces used advanced technologies to great effect, employing everything from precision airstrikes to sophisticated surveillance drones. Yet the ultimate goal remained the same: to gradually wear down enemy resistance until the only option left was surrender. Just as the ancient Israelites cut off Tyre's access to resources and relentlessly bombarded its defenses. Modern forces seek to cripple enemy infrastructure and apply steady pressure until victory is inevitable. Whether fought in the ancient Mediterranean or modern deserts, the principles remain the same. The most successful sieges are often those that combine overwhelming force with patience and ingenuity. And it's not just sieges that still stand strong. What about the battlefield itself? Take, for instance, the Adige River. Its banks witnessed the clash of titans between Rome and Hannibal Barca in the 2nd century BC. These clashes were brutal affairs with thousands perishing on both sides. So what's important to note here is not what happened, but how it happened. See, the battlefield was everything to the Romans and Carthaginians. Knowing its every nuance was critical to achieving victory. The terrain dictated troop deployments, movement, and attack formations. Troops familiarized themselves with the land, memorizing landmarks, river crossings, and choke points. Generals scrutinized topographical maps, studying elevation changes, wind patterns, and vegetation. They chose positions that leveraged natural barriers, windbreaks, and elevated spots for vantage points. Victory went to those who knew the battlefield intimately, not just through abstract maps, but through physical reconnaissance. They also understood the impact of weather. Experienced generals anticipated how rain, wind, and heat would affect troop movements, visibility, and weapon effectiveness. They adjusted plans accordingly, sometimes opting to delay attacks for more favorable conditions. For instance, after a heavy rain, the terrain might become muddy, slowing movement and making some routes impassable. A wise general would use this to his advantage, perhaps by luring his opponent into unfavorable territory, or by choosing a more advantageous position for his own troops. Ultimately, mastery of the battlefield meant anticipating not only the enemy's moves, but also the subtle ways terrain and weather would influence the outcome of battle. In essence, knowing the battlefield was critical to navigating its complexities and coming out on top. We still studied topography, wind patterns, and weather extensively to get just an edge on the enemy. Of course, now we use satellites and high-tech aircraft to do it. But fundamentally, the approach remains the same. But what about the mental aspect of warfare? Are there any ancient tactics that still influence how we wage war psychologically? Enter Sun Tzu, one of ancient China's greatest military minds. He outlined his strategies in The Art of War, a text still studied in modern academies and boardrooms for its timeless wisdom. One of his lesser-known tactics, deception, exemplifies this approach. According to Sun Tzu, feigning weakness can lure an opponent into a false sense of security, causing them to make critical mistakes. For example, imagine a general facing a numerically superior enemy. Rather than confronting the foe head-on, he could choose to retreat, hoping to lure the enemy into pursuing. If the enemy falls for the bait, he'll eventually reach a point where he can turn and strike a decisive blow. Or imagine an army approaching a fortified city. Instead of immediately attacking, the general could pretend to weaken his forces, perhaps by building fewer camps or setting up a meager watch. If successful, the city's defenders, lulled into thinking they have the upper hand, might prematurely open the gates, allowing the cunning general to lead his forces into the city and capture it without a full-scale assault. In essence, Sun Tzu recognized the importance of psychology in warfare. By carefully crafting an image of weakness, even a weaker army could deceive its opponent, leading to victory. What's remarkable is that this tactic remains relevant today. Modern militaries regularly employ disinformation campaigns and strategic retreats to mislead their enemies and gain the upper hand. And we continue to study Sun Tzu not only for his insights on logistics and strategy, but also for his timeless advice on the art of deception. So as we move forward, remember that much of what we do today has deep roots in the past. Ancient generals may have lacked the technology of modern warfare, but they more than made up for it with creativity and battlefield know-how. In the end, ancient warfare offers valuable lessons for us today. Victory often goes to those who adapt fastest, not just those with the biggest army or the fanciest weapons. By understanding the tactics and strategies that have stood the test of time, we can better navigate the complexities of modern conflict. So let us continue to learn from our forebears, not just about ancient warfare, but about the timeless principles that underlie all strategy and victory. As always, thanks for watching.